So caller with the last 4 digits, 5100. If you can unmute yourself or push *6 and just say hello so we can make sure you hear us. Oh, they did unmute.
Judy, this is Craig. I'm calling in from my desk phone. I think the 5100 is probably me calling in from my desk phone.
Perfect. I just want to make sure everybody can hear us.
Yeah, that's our landline. I can hear you just fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I'm going to turn it over to Anya. We'll go through a little bit of introductions and let her kick us off.
All right, so good evening, everybody. I'm Anya Gran with the Planning Department. Here tonight, I have Judy Johnson, the Assistant Planning Director, and I also have Elisa Duffy Rogers, who's going to be providing tech support in the back for us. Our applicant, Scott Radway, is here. Scott, do you want to quickly introduce your team?
Well, I'm here, and the 2 other people that you've heard from that are on this are Craig Eck and John Eakins, and we might get joined by 1 other person later, but there's 3 of us.
Sounds good. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and we can look at this quickly together. Let's see.
And Anya, Alicia just joined us.
Oh, good. Alicia Goldstein is also here with us. She's with our stormwater department. She's just going to be listening in tonight. She's not really here to answer any questions, but she's going to be listening so that we can answer questions in the future as they come up. But I wanted to remind everybody a little bit about our agenda tonight. Are you able to see the full screen? Yes. So
no screen right now. I don't see any share.
You don't see anything? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, let's try this again. How's that? Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So tonight, staff will just quickly review the process with all of you. The applicant will give a very brief presentation, and then there's an opportunity for community discussion. Just a few helpful hints since this is a virtual meeting. If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. That helps us so that we're not receiving feedback and it doesn't get noisy for us. We're going to ask that each person ask 1 question at a time and then let the next person go, and we can keep making the rounds around until we get through everybody's questions. We will be ending this meeting around 6:15. This meeting is recorded and we will try to make it available online in the next few days. We wanted to also remind you that anything that you write in the chat feature is part of the public record. We don't have a raise the hand tool tonight like we do in some of our advisory board meetings. So if you want to speak, just write the word speak in the chat and we'll call on you. If you know you're having audio problems, you can also just write your question in that chat and we'll get back to you on that. So real quick, just looking at our process here. So this is the process chart. Obviously the applicant came in, they submitted a concept plan. They have now submitted.
Anya, we don't see your.
You don't see it? Oh man, all right, let's try this again.
You're back now.
Are you, but now you're seeing PowerPoint.
See it? Yes. And I saw it there briefly. I saw your process chart.
How's that? Do you see it now? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Forgive us, this is our first time using Zoom on a public meeting. But so the applicant did submit a concept plan. They are now back to submit a formal application. We're having our public information meeting tonight. From here, staff will review and provide comments to the applicant on the proposal. We'll continue to work with the applicant and review those comments and go through them. The applicant will make revisions. They'll submit a revised application that'll be made available online when it comes in. This will give staff another opportunity to review and comment on the proposal. And from there, once it's in a good spot, we'll move it forward to the advisory board review. The public is welcome to attend the advisory board meetings. These advisory boards will then forward their recommendation to the town council. Council will hold a public hearing. Again, an opportunity for public comment. And then we will be returning for council action, whether they approve or deny the application. And from there, it goes on to the final plan stage and then into building permit. So with that, let me turn the time over to the applicant, Scott Radway, and he can make his presentation.
Thank you. I will try our, there we go. Things hide. I'm sorry. I'm working on having this screen come up. It was up earlier without any problems.
So maybe Scott, stop sharing and then try again.
We've only gone through this a couple times to make sure that it absolutely would show up. There we go. I see it.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. I apologize for all of that. We have tested it several times to see that it would work. So this is Erwin Road. It's a proposal, 101, 111 Erwin Road, 101 Erwin Road right now is the Residence Inn Hotel. The proposal is for a mixed-use village collector conditional zoning for a expansion for the Residence Inn Hotel and the creation of Summit Place townhomes, 45 market rate townhomes, and 7 affordable townhome units. This depicts the 2 properties that are part of this application, what we might refer to as the Pond property or Mildred Scott property. Residence Inn, existing Residence Inn, which has a special permit from 2003. Christ Community Church, which is on the corner of Old Oxford and Erwin Road. The area in red is sub-area C that's within the recently adopted future land use map. Larger area of the future land use map, and this is the purple dashed line. This is here for reference if we want to get back to it. This aerial view of the property shows with a star Mildred Scott property or the Pond property. To the north of that, Christ Community Church designated with the C, and south of the Pond lot is the existing Residence Inn Hotel and its property. This is an OWASA map that shows various water and sewer facilities in the area. And of importance, most importance here is that there was, when the hotel was approved, there was a sewer easement line that was requested by OWASA, and I'm showing it on with the arrow pointing at it. It would connect to an OWASA easement that's in Summerfield Crossing, which has never been constructed or open. And part of the proposal for the original hotel was not to use that easement. And part of this proposal is to abandon that easement so that the section that's in an easement on Summerfield Crossing would not be needed. This is a quick look at the existing buildings on the property, the easement line as it bends across the site, and the pond. Development proposal and development goals for Summit Place and Residence Inn is to develop the 2 lots, 17.8 acres, as adopted with the land use policies and height restrictions or guidelines at least that are in the future land use map. Develop a townhome neighborhood that would be serving middle income families, or missing middle as a popular phrase. It would create affordable housing ownership opportunities, as it would be an ownership neighborhood. To expand the existing Residence Inn hotel by replacing one of the existing buildings in essentially the same location by a new hotel wing. A primary goal is to solve drainage and the flooding problems for Summerfield Crossing. And then within the design, to have internal movement between the hotel and the townhomes and the church when it gets developed, so that there is not the need for people to be going out onto Erwin Road on a regular basis to move around. This depicts on the left, roadway access depicts the existing properties from the prior slide. Number 1 I'm identifying here is the existing hotel entrance, and you can see that it's a short distance from Erwin Road. Number 2 is the entrance that would go to Christ Community Church. Number 3 is where NCDOT and the town of Chapel Hill have said an entrance for this proposal should be placed. Land balance exchanges shows A and B, which would be A, land on the existing Residence Inn hotel site going to the townhome site, and property as B in here going to the hotel site. And that's visible, I believe, in the 3rd slide on the right, the proposed lots. Stormwater management is a big issue in this property and elsewhere. The existing site development is shown in the left slide. A shows the location of the building to be replaced. The stormwater management for the existing property is identified here. The new property line in red and the old property line, or what the proposed property line in red, the existing property line in black. The center slide, or the right slide, shows again the location now at B of the proposed hotel change. The stormwater is in roughly the same place as it is now. And that again shows the 2 property lots. The engineering plan, if you will, that's part of the submission, that's a black and white drawing, is on the left. The color version of that is on the right and adds more texture and color and vegetation to what is proposed. Townhomes in the northern portion of the site, stormwater in the center portion to serve both, go back this way, stormwater to serve both the townhome development and the northern half of the hotel property, which it does at the present time. Just to go around some of the neighborhood relationships here. Item 1, or area 1, is Summit Place, the proposed 52 townhomes. Adding Irwin Village across the east side of Irwin Road, which is attached single-family homes, duplexes, some people might call them. There's 32 of them. McGregor Place, which is 16 townhomes, is also across the street. Cosgrove Hill, which is 24 townhomes, only 12 of which are depicted here. The others are further east of this. Summerfield Crossing, which is to the west, shares a property line. There are 3 single-family homes on Old Oxford Road, which also 2 of which share a property line. And then also at the north is the Christ Community Church. The dashed red line shows the area follow the arrow, which goes to the south to Dobbins Drive. And that's a portion of the property that will be left intact, will not have any construction or change. Depict here the primary entrance, as NCDOT has said, would be serving both the townhome development and the hotel, and the existing entrance, which is down here at the front of the site, would be turned into a right in and right out only, with a median in Erwin Road to prevent left turns, to improve both traffic flow and safety. The townhome in a little more detail is shown on the right-hand side here. Internal roadway as we come in from the primary entrance, major loop road on the inside. All of the townhomes have rear parking access. So buildings 1, 2, and 3, which face on Irwin Road, the front of those buildings will face Irwin Road. Buildings 4 and 5 will face each other as front yard facing buildings. 9 and 10 also face onto a commons area. 7 and 8 face each other across the internal road as a regular street arrangement. And building 6 would face out onto about a 10,000 square foot commons green area. A little more detail again, 45 market rate townhomes, 7 affordable townhomes, garage under parking for buildings 1 through 8. And they would be 3-story buildings. Buildings 9 and 10 would be 2-story buildings to reflect and fit better with the scale of the surrounding properties in that area. There's a commons courtyard. We have a connection to the church, both out on the sidewalk on Irwin Road and an internal road connection that was requested by Public Service and Emergency Services as a connection for second and third ways of access to each of these properties. 45 feet for the townhomes, a 45-foot buffer, which would be primarily Summerfield Crossing along this edge, and in the northern edge, next to single family homes, 42.5-foot buffer. This depicts in a little more close up the hotel change, which is replacing the 2-story building that's out here now. 2 stories, and I'm going to say this, 2 stories with a peaked roof, which is 3 stories basically in vertical height. And this is proposed to be a 4-story building, which is the height recommended as a standard height or a regular height within the future land use map program. Storm drainage, and here I want to take a couple seconds more. On the left-hand side, what you see is the existing site plan for the existing conditions for the church, existing conditions for the hotel. And what's in green is the storm drainage area. I'm gonna have to go backwards here for a second. The storm drainage area that goes to the small basin that's here, that then goes into the stream that runs along Dobbins Drive. We've inserted the church's footprint and parking lot area. At the present time, we switch to the next drawing on the right, you see the area of the church development and the remaining area in here that now drains and goes out in red location of the red dot. The center portion of the site goes now into the storm pond for the hotel and exits the site in the location of the sanitary sewer easement. As you can see, there's a large drainage shed that currently exits onto or behind the townhomes on Berry Patch. Again, the drawing on the left depicts these locations with the new site plan, larger stormwater area. And on the right, you see the difference of what would now be draining out up by Berry Patch is a very small area compared to what was there would drain before. The remainder of the site will go into the storm drainage with the exception of a small area back here, which currently, which will not be disturbed and which will become buffer. The southern portion of the site stays the same. Some idea of the scale of what's proposed. Top drawing shows 12 townhomes fronting on Erwin Road. There are 3 floors, the ground floor, or I'll say the ground floor, accessible as the ground floor from internal to the site, and then 2 floors of living space. So these are 2-story buildings facing out onto Erwin Road. The second drawing, excuse my arrow running all over, we've placed those townhomes that are facing Erwin Road and moved up the street a little bit to show the size and scale for relationship of what the church is going to be. The bottom section here is the section from Erwin Road going through the townhome development, sort of stair-stepping or terracing towards the back to Summerfield Crossing. And 122 Berry Patch Lane would be the dwelling unit that this section actually cuts through, which is on the right-hand side. If we need to go back to make it a little more visually interesting, this shows the building forms perhaps a little bit more easily to read. The top section here is a single-family home at 2212 Old Oxford, and shows the distance between that house and the property line, and then the distance between that property line and the 2-story Summit proposed townhomes. And the bottom section shows Erwin Road cutting through the proposed 4-story addition, the setback being 127 feet, which is exactly what the existing building is right now. The 3-story existing hotel building, which with its peaked roof is about 4 or 5 feet different in total height from the 4-story. And then from there through 120 Woodbridge Lane, which building that's in, which I think is Mr. Krasny's address and building, the distance across there being 210 feet, which it is at the present, 100 feet buffer, which is out there at the present time, which would remain, and about 27 feet from the property line to the Summerfield Crossing building. And again, I'm not sure if I'd call it fancy, but it shows the buildings maybe a little bit better. And then we have Erwin Road improvements that I described a little bit before. The roadway improvements all the way along from Dobbins Drive back to the church, and we will meet with the church building. So these improvements are the same that would extend up to Old Oxford. And they will include a center left turn lane that's a protected left turn lane into the main entrance of the site, or a right turn in, of course. This will become a right in and right out only, with the median in the street. It will have bike lanes that will run the extension from Dobbins Drive all the way up to Old Oxford. Both the church and this proposal will put those in, and there's existing pavement with existing bike lane in front of, or bike lane width in front of the existing hotel. So I'm going to end it here with this. I sort of switched the orientation from the initial slides, but this is here to allow us to have further conversation or questions, and hopefully this graphic will be able to let people ask questions about specific locations. And for our presentation, that's it.
All right, thank you. So as a reminder, everybody, this is just an informational meeting. If you have a question, you can write speak in the chat box and we'll call on you. This is just an opportunity to get some of your answers or your questions answered by the applicant and provide feedback. Staff is just kind of in the background to listen.
Yes, I have a question. I'm Harvey.
Would you like to go first?
Say again?
Mr. Krasny, do you want to go first?
Yes, please. May I go?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello? All right. Mr. Radway, you haven't mentioned what the disposition of the pond, the existing pond, what's going to happen?
See if I can drop back here. I hope the existing pond will be removed. It will be drained, and bad soil will be taken out of the area. The process for doing that, we've had several meetings out on the site with the town staff to take a look at the way to get into the pond area in the safest fashion with the least amount of disturbance, because even though we've got a proposal, it's not approved yet. But the storm pond has 2 spots that were breached, so that the pond partially drains right now, or periodically drains right now from the prior owner's actions. Summit has had a contract to purchase the property for a long time, but was only able to execute that contract in April of this year. So I was going to say, relatively recent ownership with regard to the maintenance and care of the pond is now available. In my screen, I see the PowerPoint because I have it. Does anybody else see it right now? Okay, let me go back.
No, we don't.
Well, let me.
Now we do.
Now you do. Okay. Let's go back to the beginning here, someplace around here.
So you're putting townhomes over where the pond is existing now?
Yes. Let's go back one, let's even back it up a little bit. The pond, many of you who followed this property and previous proposals that were brought through as concept plans, the pond has a berm that's an artificially created earthen berm, really right at its diagonal property line with Summit property with the hotel. And the pond is 8 to 10, 11 feet deep in various places. It was created as a farm pond, and it was a pond for animals to be able to drink from. And over the years, it was marginally maintained, and it has been a problem with flooding for a while. I think the easiest way to describe how it functions now is there's a breach, which is a couple of feet where it drains uncontrolled sort of out of the southern tip. Excuse me. The southern tip. There's a spot in the middle of the pond wall where it was also drains. And when it's really wet, and it has been for the last 4 or 5 years, the low spot of the pond is at the north edge, and that water comes and flows across the site and really down through and backs up really into the properties along Berry Patch. And that's just an overland flow. It connects, the flow goes to a inlet or a pipe, but that pipe is not sufficient to handle the flow. So it, excuse me. So it backs up along the edge of the property here, causing problems. So we're proposing to take the pond out, take out the soils that are bad, and build the townhomes sort of in the center of, if you will, what becomes this site. And so that's the long answer, Harvey.
All right, I'll just continue on and ask then. When you're removing that, there are 2 questions. One, when removing that, whatever is there, including the fish and anything that's in the pond, you're going to we hope you will not drain it into Summerfield Crossing. It doesn't only come through Berry Patch, but it also comes behind my unit, which is between my unit, which is between Woodbridge and Berry Patch. So again, the question would be, will you remove the water and anything in that water and not drain it down into Summerfield Crossing property?
Well, it currently flows, I mean, currently I'm not going to go back, I don't think, through all of the slides, but the stormwater.
No, I wouldn't want you to.
The stormwater, you know, from the pond site, for the most part, sort of splits, and some of it drains onto the Summerfield Crossing site, or excuse me, the hotel site, and a spot where the existing stormwater facilities are, and some of this site drains along the edge, but then back down towards and goes through, you know, approximately where your property is. And we've been given, we have been given by the town some requirements for the draining of that property, how fast it can flow, when it can be done, when it can't be done relative to storm events and some other things. We're developing that plan right now. It has not been submitted yet because we're waiting for additional town staff review, which we'll get next week, and also from this meeting to learn more about concerns. I can't promise you that none of that water will go through there, because as I guess just a condition of the natural area, that water sort of flows, as you know, and most know, sort of from the northeast corner where the church is. That water, that's a higher portion of the site, and all the water that comes across really does sort of flow towards the back line at Summerfield Crossing. And what one of our slides did show before is our goal is to reduce that amount of flow that works on Berry Patch down to virtually nothing. It would be 90% of what goes there now, and in storm events all the way from a 1-year storm essentially up to a 100-year storm. And then with the new basin, I'm going to drop here. With this new storm water, we will collect from there, and this for 1, 2, 10, and 25-year storms will reduce by any place between, say, 35, I think is the number, to about 70% the amount of water that's reduced by that amount, the amount of water that's leaving the site along this back edge.
That's all well and good, but my question was, what are you going to do with when you drain it? Are you going to remove? Obviously, there'll be fish and other wildlife in that pond, and will you remove that instead of draining it into Summerfield Crossing?
I don't think we have an answer yet.
Okay. Oh, we would. I would, and certainly I would think my neighbors would appreciate not sending any of the wildlife into and the water into Summerfield Crossing. If you could put that in as a request.
Yes,
we'd
sure.
appreciate it. The second thing I have a question on is, if you recall, the church had a diverter, mechanical diverter under the church parking lot to remove stormwater from their proposed site and direct it to, which was at that time, to the pond, which exists now. The pond won't be there. So where are they going to divert that water? Is it going to be diverted into what you now call a proposed stormwater control measure, that area? that would be behind the parking lot and adjacent to the hotel.
Okay.
I'm looking at page 5 of your document, TH dot combined plan, which is an overview of the development, proposed development, plus the hotel.
Okay.
All right, and so you have right now in there, on page 5, PDF page 5, you have a behind the parking lot there, which is called a proposed stormwater control measure.
I'm looking at this the slide I put up says drainage areas after development. Are you seeing that, Mr. Krasny?
No, I'm only looking at the document that you have of the overview of the site, which includes the hotel, the new building, and the townhomes. And behind one of the parking lot, which is adjacent to your hotel, is what's called a proposed stormwater control measure.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you walk south of that, you'll find Berry Patch Lane, directly south of that.
Mr. Radway, we need to allow some other folks to speak. Mr. Krasny, can we get back to you with some additional information on this?
This is a question as part of the design, ma'am. That's what we're here to talk about, and that's what I understood. The purpose of this meeting is for homeowners to be able to ask questions. I'm asking a direct question, please. The proposed stormwater control measure, is that where the water from the church's diverter is going to be funneled? Because you don't have a pond anymore to funnel it.
The pond is being removed, yes, and
Sure.
and we are replacing that sort of, informal and semi-functional stormwater facility with a new basin, and
That's called the proposed stormwater
right
control.
and right
Okay.
and the church's plan. They're treating water and releasing it at a reduced rate that complies with the town standards. And they're really doing
And
that at the point where our drive and their drive connect. And then that is brought onto our piece of property at the same, anyway, it's brought on we have to receive it from the church because we're the next downstream property. So yes, it's coming into the site. I'm not sure. We might be able to pick this up later in more detail because I'm not quite sure what graphic or slide you're looking at.
There's no graphic there. There was a stipulation that the church would funnel, pipe that water that's coming off of that diverter into the pond.
No,
and since there is no pond.
It was not into the pond. It's just onto our property, and at the council. It comes off the church property onto what would be the townhome portion of the development up along the northern edge that it shares with the church. And it will come onto our property. Depending upon which proposed development or the church as an approved development constructs first, the details of that will be worked out and approved with the town staff. It was not aimed at the pond. It was named actually at a portion of the site that doesn't drain to the pond. It's aimed at the portion from the church. It comes down to a portion of the site that would actually go to the backyards of Berry Patch. So part of this proposal for stormwater is it's The proposal is to reduce the amount of stormwater flow from the church site, the townhome site, and the hotel site, reduce that completely from its effect on Summerfield Crossing. And our proposal does that. It does it one way for Berry Patch area. It does another way for the area that's near you. And the third portion of the site remains the same. We don't direct any more stormwater towards Dobbins Drive or to the stream down there.
So Dr. Krasny, can we, there are some other people who have some questions and just, we can come back. But
I'm just asked my question. That's what I'd
Okay.
like to look into, please.
okay, we will work with the applicant to provide some additional information.
By the way, just for clarification, this was brought up at Stormwater Advisory Board meeting and environmental as well.
Okay.
Ms. Linda Brown, it's your turn, please.
Yeah, some time ago, this property was approved for a project of 28 townhouses that was dropped at some point. And now what you're doing is you're proposing to double the number of homes for which it was previously approved. We have a stormwater problem that is not just the result of the pond. There is water coming down from the 2 catchment areas of the hotel. I have neighbors who have gone and walked during rainstorms. And right along that property line between Summerfield Crossing and the Marriott Hotel, when there is a significant rainstorm, we have water flowing right down that line. And it comes right next to the house next door to me. There's erosion there. It becomes like a stream. And it also runs right down the middle of Woodbridge Lane. It looks like a river. I had the last really bad storm we had, I think it was either Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve. I called the hotel and I suggested to the manager that he go out there and take a look at his catchment areas, because one of my neighbors had already gone up there during another storm and he had taken pictures. He had video of the water just flowing down the hill. And within the last 3.5 years, we have had 2 500-year storms. So when you tell me that you're going to put in a 100-year storm catchment basin, I am not thrilled at all about that. I don't live in a flood zone, but I have purchased flood insurance. My front yard, despite what my HOA has done, regularly has 3 or 4 inches of water in it. So I'm not really thrilled about this. Now that catchment, that area that you're proposing, that water is still going to have to go somewhere. It's not going to be able to sit there indefinitely. So I'm not thrilled about either the scale of the project, which is doubling the size of what was previously approved, and the impact that it's going to have on stormwater in this area.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Melissa Dadston, you had asked a question about the retention pond and parking. Would you like to elaborate?
Right. Some of them have already been discussed. I think Ms. Brown just commented on one of my notations. I believe Mr. Radway said it was a 25-year stormwater pond on terms of what the hotel is planning to do. And given that I haven't made my transition to Maryland, I bought my condo in Summerfield Crossing just before COVID. So I am still sheltering in place in Maryland with the occasional trip in isolation. So I am well aware of the water issues that were not seen on the video done with the realtor I have now seen in person.
Mm-hmm.
But the catchment basement, I'd like to know specifically, what is the percentage increase in holding capacity? You don't have to answer that today, Mr. Radway. I think there are other comments, but I think it's important to note the capacity, along with the fact that you have now increased your parking in the back zone there by the existing hotel. Having stayed at your hotel while house hunting, I can tell you there's inadequate parking back there already. So I noticed in this new drawing, you've increased it a wee bit, as well as the need for additional parking that you will probably pave some incremental level in the hotel area, along with the addition of the heavily densely populated townhouses, which are in a zone, according to your zoning maps, 4 houses per acre zoning currently. So the previous allotment for 28 houses were for a different development. I'm assuming in Chapel Hill, like we have here in Maryland, you start the process over with a whole new process. So it still remains residential 4 acre per home zoning. So by cramming 58 houses in the associated pavement, I'd like to make sure, and I saw Ms. Goldstein from Wastewater is online. I am very interested in seeing the calculations of the incremental impact on that, on this catch basin, which when I have stayed at the hotel is overfull and running just from there, as well as your lack of parking. The other statement that I would like to sort of bring up that needs to be considered is impact on traffic. I was unaware until Mr. Radway's presentation tonight of the proposal, and rightfully so, to deal with the traffic issues of putting a median so there's a right in, right out along Irwin for his hotel guests, which basically blocks Old Dobbin Road as an access point for anyone leaving, egressing from Summerfield Crossing to turn left on Erwin Road. In other words, in order to access the other areas of Chapel Hill, we will be forced to do a right turn only on Irwin, or if we wish to go somewhere else in the township, we will have to go out Old Oxford Road and then over to Sage or Irwin or any of those other areas. So I think that's an important thing, the impact on traffic. On the 3 visits I have made to my townhouse, which is actually on the west side on Beaver Dam, I will tell you the traffic noise inside my own house with windows closed is 56 to 61 decibels, which is above the city noise level for outside. That's my current inside decibel level. So I'm very concerned that anything, townhouses, increased guests, that increase traffic and traffic flow will further erode and create noise pollution in the area. I have a series of questions beyond this. I've written a letter, but I feel that it was important to highlight those while we were on the hearing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
May I comment on one point?
Briefly, Mr. Radway.
Because it may have been I didn't explain it as well as I should have, but if you can see on the slide at the present time, this is the Dobbins up in upper top of this page is Dobbins Drive, is where my arrow is running back and forth. The median that will stop or is being required to make the current entrance right in and right out will not apologize. I don't know where this is dropped to.
Sir, could you just take that into consideration and make sure that when your drawings are updated, you clearly delineate where this new medium will place and will not take place. There are others who do have questions, and I am willing to cede not getting an answer from you right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rebecca Smith, you had a question. What will the height of townhouses be facing Irwin Road above ground? See if Mr. Radway can answer that question for you quickly.
These will be about 32 feet above, 26 feet above ground.
Ms. Smith,
It'll be essentially the same as its 2-story single family house would be. A first floor that's raised, a couple feet above ground level or grade level, a first floor and a second floor. And then in this case, we are proposing that they would be not peak roof buildings, but flat roof buildings.
Ms. Smith, does that answer your question? Yep, it does. We also have Margot Ginsburg would like to speak.
I want to say thanks for all of the other town members coming out to speak. I wanted to inquire about a query on the impact on elementary and middle school capacities in this region. I know that's a little secondary to obviously all of the concerns about traffic and floodwaters. However, as a parent here in segment 114, which is where this property would sit, is assigned to Ephesus Elementary. I want to say that at the start of the 2018-2019 school year, when my son was in kindergarten, there were 24 to 25 students in each kindergarten class. As a result, an additional class was added midway through the fall term, disrupting the social and emotional development of our students. Various Chapel Hill Carborough district segments within a half-mile radius of this proposed development had students at three different elementary schools in the district: Rashkus, Glenwood, and Ephesus. Where are these many new students going to go in a district over capacity at the elementary school level? When this site was originally proposed and approved, previous approval for only 28 units as opposed to a new 52.
And to add to that, not to mention that we lost Glenwood to the dual language schools. So every child will not be districted to that.
Thank you. I will mute and wait for.
I can respond just from the town perspective. There is a schools adequate public facility ordinance. Every development that has a residential component has to give us a certificate from the school system that the school system signs off on, that there's adequate capacity within the school district. So that it will be a requirement of this development to provide that documentation. So it is the school district, which is not the town. So, but we do have a relationship in this ordinance that we all abide to.
Thank you. Anne McGrath had a question. She says, is building 8 in the residential community a 3-story building? And if so, since it backs up to Summerfield Crossing and Berry Patch Lane, we would like that building to be a 2-story building like building 9. Mr. Radway, if you could answer that.
Let me get back to this so we can. So I think if I heard your comment, it is about building 8 being 2-story rather than 3-story.
Yes, sir.
Along with building 9 and building 10 being 2-story.
Ms. McGrath's question is building 8 a 3-story building? Building 8
is proposed as a 3-story building, yes.
And she is saying that she would like for it to be a 2-story building like building number 9. Ms. McGrath, am I representing that correctly?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. That because those two buildings, from what I heard from the presentation, excuse me, building 10 in particular was made to be low profile to complement the homes and take into consideration the homes that are behind building 10. And I would imagine the same thing for building 9. Building 8 as well is against or backs up to very small 1-story townhomes. And as much as in these pictures, it appears like there's a great distance between these buildings, anyone who's familiar with really footage is going to understand that this is not a great distance at all. And these again, and we're on the downhill. So having these buildings be taller than 2 stories is, and backing up to one-story townhomes, which is the majority of the townhomes in Summerfield Crossing. There are a few that are two-story, but the majority are one-story. And again, we are on a downslope to these buildings. So the distance between, yes, the concern would be that that's a three-story building number 8.
Thank you.
And Melissa Dadston wants to confirm that the letters being sent in are also being included in the community comments. Yes, ma'am, they will be. And then Ms. McGrath also said, please explain the internal movement, walking and driving. I'm not sure I understand that question, Ms. McGrath.
So I'm sorry. In the explanation initially, again, in the presentation, you mentioned that there would be internal movement within the development that you're talking about, whether it's between the church, the new residents, and also the hotel. Is that like just roads that allow you to go into all of these areas, or is that also sidewalks, like the internal movement? You use that terminology.
Okay. There's two layers of pedestrian movement, if you will, along Erwin Road, the church property, the proposed townhouse frontage, and the Residence Inn hotel. There will be a sidewalk, a public sidewalk along Erwin Road for that. The internal connections, I'm not sure if you're able to see the drawing that's I put up here. Internal to the townhouse site, there are sidewalks, there are sidewalk connections that come out and go to Erwin Road. There's internal sidewalk that goes to, that comes across, can't quite see it here, and connects with an internal sidewalk to the hotel property. And the specifics of the Road B connection to Christ Community Church, which it will be an internal connection. What exactly that design will be, we have not yet worked out with Christ Community Church or with the town staff. But that's where internal connection pedestrian would occur to the church. At prior public hearings, we've been asked about making connections between the proposed development and Summerfield Crossing. We have not shown that the connection being there. It's one that is, I'd say, in keeping with the concept of communities and neighborhoods having internal connections. In the past, we've heard that residents at Summerfield Crossing don't want a pedestrian connection.
Thank you. I just wanted, I figured it was what you had just explained. Yeah. And would there be a fence also between the community, the new development, and Summerfield Crossing?
We have not drawn one or proposed one. I think that's something for Summerfield, the applicant, and advisory boards and council to give us guidance.
Yeah, because that's something, as a board member here in Summerfield Crossing, we have fence all around our community between the other apartment complex, which is a very good neighbor around its profile as far as being low profile, and we have a fence there and around the rest of the community. So it was something that we would want to have put in. And just last, I want to just one more time reiterate the importance of the profile of the buildings backing up to Berry Patch and anything else that would back up. But I think those are the only two that really back up to Berry Patch that we would be really concerned about the profile of the building.
Thank you very much. We have a question. Who is the targeted buyer group for the 45 market value townhouses?
Can you repeat that so I can hear it a little bit better?
Certainly. Who is the targeted buyer group for the 45 market value townhouses?
the townhouses, we didn't actually get to the discussion. The townhouses are 2-story and 3-story
No, I think,
buildings. There's 7 of the 52 would be affordable housing units. So those will be things that we work through with the community or the home trust. The others, as 2 and 3 bedroom units, do not have a specific target market. These types of townhomes and units have been not in the market in Chapel Hill for a long time, but information suggests pretty well that it would be a mix of people from late 20s and early 30s up to about 55 to 60. 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms limits the household size pretty well. And because they are 2 floors or 3 floors, they are pretty much families and I'd say adults that are, I'd say mobile. They're not dependent upon elevators. So that's not a specific answer to your question, but that's a design piece that is being worked on.
thank you. And we have one final person who would like to speak, which is.
I want to speak also. One more question, please.
This is YJ. Oh, Harvey, can I ask my question first?
Yes.
Harvey, would that be okay?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, nice to see you again, Scott. My first question actually kind of answered by your answer to a previous question. So we appreciate actually some of the changes you made in this new proposal compared to one from 2 years ago. So my question originally was about the height of the building close to the property line facing East Old Oxford Road. So it looks like those 2 buildings are 2-story, right?
Yes.
Number 9, number 10. So it's every family is different. We moved here to this on East Old Oxford Road because to get away from a subdivision because of very severe chronic migraine my wife has suffered since very young age. So if you remember, we got very emotional in 2018 when like 5-story buildings were proposed here. So for that kind of change, I feel you listened and we appreciate that. So that's my, was intended to a question, but now it's a comment. My second question is regarding the stormwater runoff. You emphasized the issues with summer crossing field, but just want you to understand the stormwater issue actually is interconnected. Some of the runoffs coming from high elevation actually gonna pass through, partially pass through our backyard and go into the undisturbed land, right? So my understanding is you will work with a church project. So just, I don't know the detail, but just want to make sure that there's gonna be a coordination between you and the church. So really take this opportunity to eliminate some of the issues, long-term issues we are suffering from.
Thank you for the comments. Yes, we did listen. I think we listened to quite a number of things from the prior presentation and proposal. This drawing, we will work and we will work with you and we will work with the church. This drawing shows that the church's area, which gets most of the runoff coming off, well, it gets runoff at the present time from Erwin Road and from Old Oxford because it doesn't have any curb and gutter or anything to stop the runoff from the street. And that's the same condition that sort of runs along the pond property so that there's a good wash that comes across there from what's on the road at the present. And all of that will get picked up in storm drainage inlets and pipes along Irwin Road. There's still going to be, even after the church does its design and aims its water at us or at the townhome development, there's still going to be this smaller back corner that sort of is on the edge of your property line shared with the church and down in the back. And I know Phil Post would be certainly happy to work with us and with you to make sure that we end up with a situation that's improved there.
Yes, thank you.
What I wanted to ask Scott, and I'm asking the town as well, is how do you reconcile a 4-story building when your SUP only allows 3-story or 45 feet in height, as well as being a maximum or minimum of 100 feet from the common property line of Summerfield Crossing? How do you reconcile that with the SUP that's in place?
Let me do.
Hey, Dr. Krasny, that's part of the application before us and that you're viewing tonight is that it would be a new, different application. It would, that SUP would be replaced with this approval.
So you're getting rid of the SUP and all the negotiations that we had in 2003 and replacing it and just saying, all bets are off. We don't have any requirements anymore. Is that what I hear you say?
They are, the applicant is requesting a different zoning district, a mixed use village.
I know, but that's all due respect. That was our protection back in 2003, that it would not exceed, building would not exceed 3 stories, 45 feet, and it would have 100 foot, common property line would have a buffer 100 feet from the common property line with the hotel or with the owners. So why have any rules if you're going to break them? That would be my question, essentially. You don't have protection. You have protections for homeowners, and then you take them away. We had that protection. It was guaranteed. So you just don't come in. I don't see how you can just come in and replace it and say, too bad.
So I appreciate your comments, Dr. Krasny, and I think those.
Good. Who am I talking with? I'm sorry, so I can document this.
I'm Judy Johnson.
Hi, Judy. Yes, thank you very much.
And I think
I'm sure you know my feelings on this, and they're genuine.
Yeah.
This is the agreement you had with Summerfield Crossing at that time. It was a negotiated agreement.
Understand, and I think it would be appropriate to, if you, as this project moves forward, to share your concerns and thoughts with our town council.
I'm sharing the concerns with that. Thank you. I am sharing the concerns with both the town and the property owners, that they don't violate, they don't controvert previous agreements. And there is, as you know, a permanent deed restricted buffer of 100 feet width. That's in the deed, permanent. If your attorney is present, you may want to look that up. I don't mean Mr. Radway. I'm talking about the town.
Understand. And
thank you.
I don't have an answer for
you.
We
hope you'll understand that.
So we are running out of time quickly. It's getting close to 6:30. I do see that there's several other people who would like to ask questions. I think Anya and I know can.
That's what we're here for today, is to be able to ask questions. I'm glad to hear that. Please go ahead with the other questions.
Anya and I will be happy to stay here for a couple more minutes. I have another meeting that I have to get to that starts a little bore 7. So
that's fine. I fully understand, but this was our meeting. This is what the town set up for our meeting. And so give us that time, please.
So Lindsay Garrison has asked to speak.
Yes, I wanted to follow up. Actually, noticed that there was a comment after I asked to speak about this issue, and it follows on that. I think there's been kind of an irresponsible attention to the issue of climate change here, because severe storms are becoming the norm, and if the maximum that's being prepared for is a 100-year storm, that's not sufficient. And I think that really needs to be reevaluated. That's all. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to find out if there's others in the, we had a comment about townhomes are mostly attractive to young professionals. Does that mean that each townhome is expected to be a 2-car home with a resulting 104 cars coming and going every day? What effect on traffic will that have in addition to what the current traffic load is? There is a traffic impact analysis, and we will, if it is not posted, we will make sure that's posted on our webpage. Anya has put in there her contact information about additional questions to please. We do want to hear from you and happy to try to respond to those. We had a couple other questions about our comments. Town has ignored its own regulations all over town. And comment, is there nowhere else to build in Chapel Hill? Every inch will be covered. And then somebody like to thank Scott for his consideration to any changes that have been made from the previous proposal and concerns about the height of the building, again, adjacent to 1-story buildings. And we also had a comment, we will make our concerns very clear to council, not that we expect to be heard. The town has ignored on its pledge to the Paris Accords. Any other last comments? We will hopefully by tomorrow get this meeting posted on our webpage. We also get some additional information. I don't know if our traffic impact analysis is posted on there. We'll make sure that's loaded, and we'll put the PowerPoint on there that Scott has shared. So you have that. Really do want to have information, and what we can do is, as you send in your questions, and that we have tried to answer some of them today and maybe not completely, and you send in some additional ones to Anya over the next couple of days, we can post those on the webpage as like an FAQ, or not FAQ, Q&A type of thing. And that's, I think, all I have at this point. I see we have another comment about more details that we need. And we're happy. I mean, you have I hope you have our contact information. I know you have Anya's. I can put mine in the chat. And just please contact us. We're here trying to help you.
On behalf of the applicant for this proposal, we thank you all for taking the time to come and share your opinions and concerns. And we responded from the last concept plan with able to incorporate a number of the ideas and suggestions, change from multifamily to townhomes, which neighbors, some of you and some that didn't come to this meeting, and council members suggested strongly that townhomes was a better proposal, and we waited for the future land use plan process to go ahead without doing anything besides watch and see which way it was going. We think this proposal for townhomes and the hotel is entirely consistent with what the future land use map has proposed, as was adopted in December. So thank you from us.
All right, well,
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Scott. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.